Okay, in this video we're going to go over homework 1. So you all took a multiple choice assignment for homework 1, and we'll look at the analytics and see how everyone did as a group and see which questions everybody missed and go over those and go over the correct answers. Alright, so let me navigate to my analytics file. Okay, I'm changing directories, and then Atom is my text editor, and I'm saying run Atom and open this folder. / means this folder. Okay, so here is my ISU directory, and then we have cs151. Right now, if we look in the BB directory and then ISU, we see everything matches what we see over here. Okay, so this on the left is kind of like a file browser. So we see cs151. Inside of there we have these folders. If we double click on this, we see the same folders, right? Okay, so that's what's happening here in Atom. On the left hand side you have a project root, and all of the directories inside of here you can expand and collapse. Alright, so we look in analytics. Okay, so in this analytics file, this is a JSON5 document. Okay, JSON5 is a type of data structuring. When we see the curly bracket, we know this is an object, which means there are keys, and then for every key name there's an associated value. Alright, so the first value here is number of test takers. So this was the number of people who actually took the test. Alright, possible is the number of points possible. Score for perfect is the number of points for a perfect score. They are the same, but in some homeworks or some exams I may curve it, and so in that case, or basically what I'll do is whatever the top score is, that'll be the score for perfect. Okay, so if the top score was only a 22, then score for perfect would be 22, even though there are 24 points. Alright, in this case they're the same. So the average score here was 21.6, and then so the average percentage is an A. So that's great. All of you are starting out really well. And then really the one you want to look at though is the adjusted. Okay, adjusted means we're adjusting for if the score for perfect is less. So the adjusted one would be your actual grade. This would be what would go into the Blackboard. Okay, and double check that on Blackboard whenever you get one of these assignments. Make sure I didn't type anything in wrong. Ultimately, your grade's your responsibility. Okay, so you have this file, and double check, cross-reference this file, this score, with what you got on Blackboard. All right. So the top score is the top score that some student got. At least one student got this score. All right. So the percentage of that, and then adjusted percentage. So that's 100%. So 1.00. Alright, grade distribution, there were 10 A's, 5 B's, and 2 C's. Okay, so 10 plus 5 plus 2 is 17. That's the number of test takers. Alright, so now we have a section of missed questions. Alright, so we have a curly bracket here, and so we have a key. This is the ID of the question that was missed. So this is question number 3. When you guys take these tests, your questions are randomized. Okay, so this won't necessarily be the third question that you answered, but it is the ID for the question, and this is needed by the backend system to know which questions are which. Alright, so this is ID 3, and here it says ID 3 inside. Question text: what is the general definition of an absolute path? It's a path to a file or directory that begins from the root of the file system. Each subdirectory between the root and the target location is contained in the path, and they are separated by slashes. Alright, so we had someone answer the path representing the root of the file system, and there were one of those. Okay, so that was the rest of you got this one right. So here's one where we had a little bit more diversity. So these respondent answers means different students answered this incorrect answer. Okay, so in this case 4 people answered this one. Okay, which tells me, when I see the whole point of this analytics file is to let me know what people are confused on. So it seems like several people thought the answer was this. So let's go over the question. What is the general definition of a relative path? The correct answer is any path that is not absolute. Okay, so if the path doesn't start with a slash at the beginning, it's not absolute. Relative paths have an implied beginning relative to some directory of the file system. Okay, so here I'm in print working directory. This is an absolute path to the location I'm in right now. All right. Now if I type ls and I want to change directories into the cs151 directory, this is a path. It is not an absolute path. It is relative to where I'm currently working. All right, so this is where I'm currently working, and then slash this would be an absolute path. So if I change directories, it takes me into cs151. If I change directories to the parent, I'm back where I was, and I can change directories into the absolute path, /home, /luke, /bb, /isu, /cs151. Okay, so this, I'm changing directories with an absolute path now. And it's going to take me into the same directory as this one did. But the only reason this works is because cs151 is relative to where I was in the terminal. I was here. And so cs151, I could just say cd cs151. And that takes me to cs151. Let's do one more thing to illustrate what's happening here. Let's change directories to home /desktop. Okay, so home, $home, that's an environment variable, and you can use those in paths. Okay, /home /luke, that takes me to my home directory /desktop. So now I'm in my desktop. And if I type cd cs151 like I did up here, this is going to be a relative path. Okay, but it's not going to work because before I was in home /luke /bb /isu, and there was a cs151 directory in there. Now I'm on my desktop, and when I do cd cs151, I'm looking for a directory on my desktop called that. It's relative to where I am, and there is no directory called cs151 on my desktop. No such file or directory. But I can use the absolute path. So if I use the absolute path, no matter where I am in the file system, it knows exactly what file or directory I'm talking about. So that's the benefit of an absolute path. And that takes me to the cs151 directory. Okay? So that's the difference between an absolute path and a relative path. Okay, this answer is closer to what is an absolute path. So it's any path to a file system location that begins with the root node of the file system. All right, and the path representing the root of the file system is not correct because the path to the root of the file system is just a slash. Okay, so slash is the root directory of the file system. All right. So let's go to the next missed question. Number 6, what does the current working directory mean with respect to the Linux command line? It's the directory in which your terminal shell is operating, and as such it is the relative directory of most relative paths provided to commands. Okay, so we just kind of went over this. The current working directory is where I am in my terminal shell. And when I type pwd, that's where I'm located. If I open a file browser, okay, it's kind of like where I am in the file browser. Here I'm in the ISU folder, I'm in home, bb, ISU, right? So this is kind of like my working directory in the file browser, and on the command line you have a working directory as well. Current working directory. Disregard those last commands. I was just cleaning some stuff up. Alright, so the next missed question is number 9. In the Linux terminal, what does the ls command do? It lists out the contents of a directory. Okay, it lists out the contents of a file or files. That's incorrect. This one is the cat command. It concatenates multiple files together and outputs them to standard output. Okay. Number 10, the Linux terminal, what does the cd command do? It stands for change directory. CD changes the current working directory of the terminal. Alright, in the Linux terminal, what does the cat command do? This prints out the contents of a file or files to the terminal. Okay, so remember, cat is used for files, right? And ls is used to see what's in the directory. This answer prints whatever arguments you supply to the terminal and can also display the contents of system variables. That is the echo command. All right. In the Linux terminal, what is the command, or what is a command argument? It's any additional data supplied to the command, separated by spaces after the command itself. Okay, what does that mean? So any additional data provided to the command. So here we have print working directory. There are no arguments to this command. I just typed in the command name. If I type ls, this lists out the contents of this directory, and there are no arguments to this command. I'm not providing additional information. What I can do with ls is I can provide a different path that I want to list out the contents of. Okay, so if I wanted to list out the contents of cs151, I say cs151. If I want to list out the contents of cs151/analytics, it lists out the contents of that directory. Okay, so this first thing is an argument to the command. Okay, and we know this is the first argument because there are no spaces in between any of these items. Okay, same for cd, cs151, analytics, cd ... Okay. Now I can use the cat command and have multiple arguments. So let's go cd home / desktop. I'm going to make a couple files, echo hi.txt, echo hello, hello.txt. Okay, the cat command, the first series of characters is the name of the command, and then we have a space and then the first argument. So the first argument is the path to the file that I want to see what's inside of it. So hi.txt and then hello.txt. Now with cat you can have multiple arguments. Okay, so I can see what's inside of both of these. It concatenates the two files together. So I have cat hello.txt, and then this space means that this is a separate argument. This is the first argument, hello.txt, space, second argument, hi.txt. Okay, and we see it prints them both out to standard output. Alright, so the arguments to a command are after the command name, it's everything separated by spaces. Now, if you have a file name that has spaces, you'll want to use quotes. Okay, if I use quotes, my terminal shell says, okay, even though there's a space here, and normally the terminal would think, okay, this is one argument and then this is another argument, right? Since I have quotes, the entire thing is one argument. So echo hi there, echo is the command. You might think that this is the first argument, but because there's quotes around it, the entirety of this whole thing is the first argument. Alright, oops, let's pop back there. And we see this is the redirection operator. It redirects the standard output to a file name, and if a file exists, it overwrites it. Okay, so when I execute this, we see we have a file name here on the desktop, and there is a space. If I go to rename, oh, you can't see it. Let me move it a little bit. We see that there is a space in this file name. Okay, so that's how you work with files with spaces in them. You have to put quotes around them, all right? Or you can do single quotes as well. and we see we have yo-yo with yo-yo inside, and there's a space in the name right there. Alright, so I'm going to remove all of the files in this directory, star.txt. So this removes all of the text files in this directory that have an ending .txt. And there they go. You see them all disappear. Alright. So that's a command argument. In the Linux terminal, what is a command option? Okay, the correct answer is technically an argument, but a specific and predetermined argument defined by the program itself, usually starting with 1 or 2 hyphens. Okay, so -al, there's 2 options defined in this argument. Okay, there's the A option and the L option. Okay, so when I use the ls command, ls, there's no arguments and no options. I can do -l to list things out vertical. That's 1 argument and it's 1 command option. Alright, if I have any hidden files in this directory, ls-al, A shows all the hidden files. So there are 2 options in this 1 command argument. Okay, so every directory has a shortcut for its own directory, that's dot, and then the parent directory is ... Okay, so these are, anything that starts with a dot in Linux is considered hidden. So the -a will show any hidden files. If I make a file called .hidden.txt, we see that it did not show up on my desktop like it normally does when I create a file. Right? If I type ls-l, we do not see it. If I add the A option, it shows the hidden files. There it is. Okay, so I want to remove .hidden.txt. ls-al. Okay, so this is 1 argument, but there are 2 command options, and these options are specific to the command ls. If you want to know what the options are, a lot of times you can type --help, and it'll give you some help on what the command does, and these are the different options you can add, and it'll show you at the top how to use them. Okay, usage, ls, then any number of options you want, and then the file, right? And so what we can do also is use the man command to find the manual pages for the ls command. So it's similar to --help, but it gives you a little bit more information. Okay, so these are all the different options that you can use. These are command options, and they're specific to every single command. Every command has a different set of options. Okay, that's a command option. How do you create a hidden file or directory in Linux? We just went over that. It starts with a dot. The tilde is incorrect. That is a shortcut for your home directory. So if I type cd tilde, that takes me to my home directory, current working directory, /home/luke. Okay, so if you're on the CS server, that's your home directory on the CS server, which is going to be a different file path structure. Alright, this is permissions. We haven't covered that yet. Alright, how do you create the directory in your home folder called junk? Okay, so this command, the tilde, acts almost as if this is an absolute path. Okay, absolute paths start with a slash or the root of the directory. If you're on Windows, it'd be like c:/. Right? It starts with the root of the file system. This is a shortcut for the root of the file system. Okay, so in a way, this is an alias for the absolute path to your home directory and then /junk. So on the command line, this is treated like an absolute path. Okay, even though it's not quite technically an absolute path, it's treated similarly. Alright, so how do you create a directory? It's mkdir. Alright, this one was just to throw you off. But on these homeworks, you have access to the terminal shell. Try them out before you answer. It just takes a second. If I go change directory, home/desktop, and then I'll try make dir. That doesn't work. Alright, so that's how you know. You can try all these. You have access to the computer, so try everything out. Make dir foo. Alright, that's there. Remove dir foo. Alright, I can only use rmdir to remove an empty directory. Alright, so that's that. Using the echo command, how could you create a file called list.txt and with the text oranges as the contents of the file? And this is key, overwriting any pre-existing file data in the file of that name. Okay, so let's create a file called oranges, and we will say oranges.txt, or no, it's list.txt. Okay, so I added 3 silly items to the list, and I'll see what's inside of it. What's inside of list.txt. Those are my 3 items. Okay, so what I want to do is I have list.txt, and I want to have the text oranges in there, and that's the only thing inside of the file, and overwrite any existing data in the file. Okay, so I can do echoes oranges, then home directory, and list.txt. In this case, I'm on my desktop, so the path changes a little bit, but I can say echo oranges and list. I'm redirecting the output, the standard output, to the file list.txt. So I got no output there because the output went to this file, and so now I say cat list.txt, and sure enough, I've overwritten the data that was in there. Okay, so now the data that I see is oranges. So one greater than symbol redirects standard output to the file and overwrites anything that was in that file. Okay. This one is incorrect because this one would add oranges to it. So if I say echo oranges with one greater than symbol, again, it overwrites whatever was in that file. So I'll end up with the same thing. If I use 2, oops. If I use 2 greater than symbols, that appends new data. So this is going to add a second oranges, and a third, and a fourth. Okay, so now we see the file has multiple items in it. See? Alright, so that's standard input redirection. These are redirection operators in Linux. Okay. The pipe command is different. It pipes the standard output of a command to standard input of another command. Alright, and we haven't gotten into that, but we'll get more into that later. And then the double ampersand operator basically means run this command, and if that succeeds, so if that succeeds, then also run this command. Alright, but this isn't a command, this is just a path, so it wouldn't work. Alright, what does current working directory mean on a Linux command line? It's location in which your terminal shell currently resides within the file system, similar to the file browser. Okay. 5 people thought it was a directory in which a command program is running or working. Current working directory on the Linux command line is kind of the key there. So when you're on the Linux command line, what is the current working directory? So you can have a command or a program. They might have a shell context and they might have a current working directory as well. But the core part here is on the Linux command line, when we're on the Linux command line, we weren't talking about when we were in a program. Okay. So this one was kind of tricky. I might end up giving this a free point because this one is really close. This is just made up gibberish. At any given time, only one directory is ever functioning in a terminal shell. And in terms of past, present, or future, the current working directory is the one that is functioning in the present moment. In a Linux or Unix style terminal, so that's Linux, we got Mac OS, and if you're on Windows, hopefully you installed cygwin. What command allows you to connect to the remote computer known as the CS server? Okay, so the host name of the CS server is cs.indstate.edu. So you use the SSH command. That means secure shell. It means we're going to remotely connect to another system. My username on that system, and then the @ symbol, and then the host name of that system. Alright. And so PuTTY is not a command, it's a program that allows you to connect to the CS server, but this is not the correct command to do that. And connect is not a thing. Alright, but you can try all these commands out. When we have questions like these, go ahead and open up a terminal and try it out. Alright, so that's homework 1. That's the ones everybody missed. We didn't go over the ones everyone got right because everyone got them right. Alright, so that's it for this homework 1.